face, and is not very close is walking from over there. It's getting closer to you. Would you say hello to the man?
팝하고 번역을 시작할게요. 작은 글씨를 더 잘 읽기 위해 노력하는 중이에요.
The habit of being a good bowler. A person who only knows his face and is not very close is walking from over there. It's getting closer to you. Would you say hello to the man who walked from over there first? What is the true meaning of greetings? I think it's about opening myself up and approaching the other person. However, we rarely have the habit of speaking or greeting our opponents first, from our own side. In particular, Korean people cannot readily say to strangers, hello first. Familiar greetings always come in return. If you say hello first from this side, how are you doing? Of course, try to greet your colleagues, who always face each other at work first. It would be perfect if you added something your opponent would be happy about. For example, if you're a male, good morning to your subordinate, a female employee. You look especially pretty today. This is considered sufficient. That bright word is the point. There is no one to be angry at being praised. The female employee will be well liked by you and be a good collaborator in her work. This is Wendy, who went on a business trip as an instructor, entered the pub by himself one day. Do you mind if I take a seat? Then he spoke to the customer sitting next to him. Please sit down. I beckoned him to sit down. Excuse me to the customer when he takes a seat, but is he from this part of the country? He asked with a smile. He smiled and said yes. In time, the story progressed so much that it was not considered an invitation. The customer was in charge of training for a company. Mr. D later worked as an employee training instructor at the company, because it was a connection that he happened to be present next to him at the bar. Then he signed a contract as a full-time lecturer at the company. I just said a word, but fate is a very mysterious thing. If you open your heart from this side and approach it, the other side will also approach it. If you experience this success several times, you will be confident in your actions and positive. From foreigners, Koreans tend to be told that they lack kindness. It's a story that I really agree with. From now on, let's talk kindly first. If you make a habit of greeting first, something good that you couldn't even think of will happen. 086 Good Habits of Successful People. A habit of giving and giving. Humans want to be as kind to others as possible to the extent that they don't cause much trouble to them. A phrase appears in a novel. Show kindness to a person. Rather, it may be because of the feeling of pride that stands out by such actions. On the contrary, some people criticize and swear even by saying bad things to others or hurting others' chests. In addition, there are people who reveal other people's flaws and make them feel humiliated, but they can't do it so they enjoy it. There are many people who mistake themselves like great figures by undermining others. Humans have a heart that is happy for the happiness of others, and in some cases, there is a side that is happy for the misfortune of others. Humans live succeeds, he is jealous and jealous of the timing, and even though another bull has failed, he is happy with it. This nature is also maintained. If you leave it as it is, it will not add anything to your development. If you want to be a bright and active thinker, you must recognize the good side of others. And the more other people are exposed with a bright expression, the more they feel superior. Try to compliment. But it's just an illusion. The result is quite the opposite. The person listening to someone else's villain may respond, as if he were happy at the time. But that is not the case. You may shake your head at the meanness of saying bad things about others. He who demeans a person is demeaning himself. Let's always keep this in mind. It's a beautiful thing to be kind. It's a beautiful thing to be kind to others. But the kindness of being kind to that person will help me be in trouble is something to consider. It's a problem. There may come a time when you're in trouble. It's easy to call in when you're in trouble. The good habits of the people in the sky. As mentioned earlier, it is because it is a law of cause and effect. When you give, it is important to entertain and give as much as you can. Anyone who can afford money can help those in need with money or materials. However, it is not necessarily just money or material that can be given. It is also kindness from the heart to correct the shoes of others that are randomly peeled and scattered. A warm word from the bottom of your heart is a great comfort to a person who has fallen and is in need. This is a beautiful sample of kindness. Don't forget to say, "Give it to others and our face, eat and go to work." Of course, the language is thank you. There are people who go to school and people who are self-employed, and the types of daily life vary from person to person. Then I'll ask you a question. How many times a day do you appreciate it? Think about what you said. If you haven't thought about it so far, thank you from this moment on. Thank you. Thank you. Let's get used to the expression "I'm sorry." It will be too much. There are a lot of people who rarely do it. Let's count how many times we've used this expression. Even though you've been kind enough to be ungrateful at most once or twice a day, the other person seems natural. Of course, depending on your job. In some cases, you have to say thank you a lot, but if you just walk away, everyone experiences a very bitter feeling, once or twice. Hotel staff, telemarketing staff, sales staff, insurance company staff, etc. will be closed. No, I made money for someone, but you're a cheeky guy. That's what I think. You have to use the expression a lot. The problem is having this type of job. Thank you if you're not going. Thank you. I almost use the term, thank you. The expression does not cost money, but it does not mean that I am not proud. It's not like it's going to go bad, but we're thankful. Thank you so much for the expression. The expression is not used only for customers. It's last night's color. The reason is that I'm not used to using these terms. I am grateful to myself for sleeping well without any problems, and I should thank my wife for preparing me a meal in the morning. The husband who enjoyed the meal is also grateful from his wife's point of view. Is that all? Thank you also for the taxi driver who drove me to my destination. Be the man to be greeted by. Similarly, the taxi driver is grateful to the customers who used his taxi. Shouldn't I say that? I ate at a restaurant. Surveillance. Even the habit of greeting does not work properly if you are not used to it. Likewise, it's not easy if you haven't made the habit of saying, "Thank you for your usual conversation." A who can make others' pride alive and neat expression after you calculate. Thank you for the friendly words. The phrase thank you is very friendly. I'm not very familiar with the phrase thank you. You don't get annoyed while working, and you can instill good people's livelihoods in your superiors. Try to say thank you often in friendship. Your friend's eyes on you will be different. That's an ungrateful man. As soon as you hear this, you have to keep in mind that you become a rock around you. Let's work with a thank you mindset today. 09 to good habits of successful people. Santa's habit. Why is it the shape of everything you do, E? Can't you do it better? I feel fired. In fact, it will be rare for a working person to hear this once or twice. The moment I heard this from my boss, I said, I'm going to give it up right away. Is there no place to work? You must have thought about this a lot in your head. However, even after being scolded, I have no choice but to endure it. People don't often express themselves in words because they are not used to compliments even if they have something to praise. Not long ago, I researched what I wanted to hear from my boss among office workers, and the number one player did a great job, really good job. You're second. I'm sure it's what you did. It is said that the result came out. How thirsty workers must have been due to the compliments of their bosses is a recognition of me. Who doesn't like to acknowledge himself more? However, the intensity of praise can vary depending on the method. An elderly middle-aged woman who is stable went to a reunion and told her friends, "Hey, you're still young?" If you were told what a young bargee is, you'd probably feel good. However, you look too young for your age from the swimming instructor when you go to the swimming pool. If you heard that, you would feel 100 times lessened than what you heard from your friends. In this way, the intensity of a compliment varies depending on the opponent. If the wife you see every day looks cool today, what are you talking about? You may be brusque about it. Of course, it's because I'm embarrassed, but it's an arm. However, when I went to the customer, the boss looks very young from a beautiful young female employee at the counter. The color of the tie looks good on you. Let's say you've been told that. Maybe the day feels so good that you don't even know how work hours go throughout the day. Even when the praise rate turns like this, the feeling of praise differs depending on who the opponent is. In addition, no matter how good a compliment is, if you do it wrong, you may be misunderstood or hated by the other person. You're really good. Miss Kim is such a horse beauty. If you don't just say this to the person who said it, but use it in a click for everyone you meet. The other person who heard this said that our manager is a beauty to any woman. He doesn't like the chief's compliments. Rather, it is easy to dislike the idea that compliments contain other ulterior motives or that they are only good at speaking. The more compliments you make, the better. but the reason for the compliment must be clear so that the person who hears the compliment will feel good. And compliments are not long, but short, so the other person likes it. For example, in an elevator, by chance, Chief Park. I saw the report, and as expected, you did well. Manager Park feels very good if he heard from the manager or the boss. If you compliment in 88 faces, when you run into each other like this, you feel one better. In addition, if there is anything to praise, it is better to do it right away in the first place. Yeah, well done. As expected, there's nothing you can't do with Miss Kim. Say immediately that. After a few days without complimenting him right away. Yeah, well done. Let's say that. From Miss Kim's point of view, no, that's when it was, but only now. Even though he is praised, he is not very happy. And one of the things that people tend to live out when they praise is that they don't value the process, they only praise it with the results. In fact, the results are important, but the process is also quite important. If you did your best, even if the desired results did not come out. Manager Kim, you did a great job. The president's words not only make Manager Kim work harder, but also make him see the president again. But the boss looks at it, the results don't come out. What did I say? If the results are considered, I think there is a big problem with leadership before the president's management ability. Compliments not only make people feel good, but they also have a big impact on interpersonal relationships. Napoleon is said to hate words of praise. But one day, Your Excellency, I love that part where you don't like to be praised. Napoleon, who disliked praise when he heard that, said he was amazed by that word. It is a story that can be guessed how strong the power of praise is. However, there are cases where there is a certain ulterior motive lurking in praise. Therefore, it is important to keep in mind that if you praise too much, you may be suspected of what is this person up to? One day, a crow with cheese in its mouth appeared in the forest. When the fox saw this scene, he rushed to the crow sitting on the tree, and said, as if the truth of the compliment was established in the wind, I wanted to make sure that I didn't understand cheese, and fall for it. I should. But since sincere compliments are passed down to the other person, let's try to make a good habit of expressing compliments on the outside. In the latter part, success follows. It's about someone famous who was a salesman and became an entrepreneur of a company with millions of dollars in assets. A visitor to his office is first captivated by the expensive paintings decorating the walls and the atmosphere of his office. However, the place where everyone ultimately stays is the slogan hanging in the center of the back wall of the person's desk. Make a smile. There was a good reason for this slogan, which he, who owns a large company, put up in the best view of his office. By the time I started this about 30 years ago, I had to work 16 to 18 hours a day. The office was a terrible scale with a roof, or attic renovation. In the summer, it was hot as if boiling eggs, and in the winter, it was freezing cold. Put 5L9. His wife squatted in the corner of the office and worked as a salesman for a single department store. It has changed my business policy tremendously. I used to sew my panties until they were ragged. Now, even when I'm disappointed in something, I naturally look at that article. I feel confident and cheerful over the years when I have to pay for food. Even though I was working, the situation didn't get better. This is a failure. It reminded me of my faith. I came to be praised as a person who is easy to find, that confidence and success are inseparable. This reputation made me think about my work. I went home and told my wife. I built it all. It's still, but rather, my wife tries to solve the problem with a comfortable smile, even if she wants to wait for another 6 months. Now I have become a habit of smiling. No matter how unpleasant it was, I was begging you. She kept me from losing hope. And I'm always content with small things and never lose confidence. The uphill path is the most difficult process, regardless of the pleasant behavior. That's why I'm here today. The importance of smiles will never come after we do our best, and one day the sacrifice will be rewarded. You'll see this slogan in my room. I believe that it might be worth the best position. I won't forget it. Don't you think? One day, days after that, she asked him for my desk without saying a word. Why he was successful, now, anytime, anywhere. I'm sure you've heard about it. I hung a word. It could be done to forget the hardships for me for a while. It meant to be comfortable. It's not only the case where you have to laugh as if you're having a hard time. Don't you know when a difficult problem will appear in front of you at any time? I decided to watch it whenever I didn't have a deal talk with someone who sharpens my nerves. Then, strangely, it came to life for the sake of it. Even in difficult times of ice, you are faced with difficult problems, and you are also in strength. Being able to laugh means being confident. It's not easy to say that you're confident of being the owner of the impression. There are more moments when you feel bad than when your car breaks down, or the difficult things that squeeze you every moment of the road. If you learn the secret to having mental satisfaction, gave your mind in the face of a difficult problem, if you can keep your composure and console yourself before you get discouraged, you are the one for success. It's something I've learned about soreness. 100 Good Habits of Successful People. A habit of constantly honing one's charm. Humans have charms and personalities that cannot be expressed in a single word. It can't be perfect in every way, but someone who gives a good impression somehow feels like a good person. That's his charm. In the world of business, you should be able to be personally attracted to the other person. Only then will he be able to react to the products he sells and naturally become close to customers. The same is true of social life. There are people who don't get liked, and there are people who can't express anything, even if they look a little immature. A small part is fine. A person who has only his own charm can give a good impression to the other person by that alone. So how can we decide how to find attractiveness first? A person who is incompetent as a person in a social life is not attractive. You should be able to do your job clearly. Anyone who has become a habit of getting things done in a clear way is recognized. Modern people don't care much about low salaries in their working lives. It can be said that they are more focused on being cornered and proud than having a large and small salary. If you're only bent on earning that month, you'll have to find a corner. A man of pride is a man who can look to the future, and a man who has this passion. Second, people with positive thinking are attractive. Surprisingly, there are many people who complain that they have good items, but they can't do it because they don't have capital. Capital is a problem because you expect big things.